All right, to start you guys off with the app, as you can see from the home screen, it gives you how many work orders you have open and then any fruit you have scheduled for today. So before I dive into the scheduling of fruit, I want to open up a vineyard block. So as I start typing in my vineyard block, we've got my B1 block. I can scroll through. Anything that has a W is for your wine. Anything that has a little grape cluster is your vineyard blocks. So then I can click on my vineyard block. And then from here, you can see this year's harvest, last year's harvest, and kind of seeing the history of this block of what's been expected versus what has been received over the years. The next little icon is the lab beaker. This is where you can enter in lab analysis. With lab analysis, there's lots of different ones that you can create for the vineyard, both just your normal Brix temp, not temp, but Brix, pH, VA, Malik. You can also create more visual lab analysis like bud break, flowering, red blotch, powdery mildew, and those answers can be percents. They can be a yes, no answer as well. And then as you go through, you can click and say our Brix are 26 today, and then that will update. To add a new analysis, and the nice thing is you can scroll through and see how this block has been progressing. And then to add any new analysis, you can click on the add results down at the bottom. If you entered a wrong result, the little pencil in the corner gives you the option to edit or delete that analysis. The next icon is brand new. This is the vineyard assessment. Before, this was only something you can do from the desktop version. Now you can do this from the app. So by clicking add observation, you can choose to add photos or notes to that vineyard or block, or do more of a block assessment. You're estimated, we're going to get 50 tons from this block. Our winery is only going to get 25 of them. And then our earliest harvest date was going to be today, with our expected harvest date to be, say, August 18th. Harvest method is going to be by hand. You can give it a grading if you want already, or a product. Like this is me part of my Vineyard Select, my table red wines. All of these products have to do with our new product kind of allocations we just launched this week, or I guess end of last week we launched. So you'll see when I go back into vintrace, there's a little lab beaker, a wine glass that will link to this. So I can say this white wine is a part of my table white program and then submit. So now I've kind of scheduled that assessment. I've taken some photos. And then here's the calendar. So if you've already picked this block multiple times this year, it'll give you each pick date and then what you have scheduled for today. So you can see today we have expected 10 tons. That's coming at 6:30 this morning. And then the next icon would be the fruit if you have received any fruit, but you haven't crushed it yet. So here's the list of everything that I've completed so far this harvest for this block. And then the last three little dots gives you details about that vineyard, the row numbers, the clones, the rootstock, organic, biodynamic. Any additional information you put in about that block, you'll find here. You can also pull up your GPS coordinate of that block, or also call the grower. Who wants to call Jamie right now? All right, and then also from this screen, you can click the little plus. You can create a booking, process all the bookings, receive the fruit, or also record a lab. So going back, so let's go to my other blocks here. They don't already have a booking scheduled for today. I can go here to the plus, create a booking, and say my expected date can be today. We're going to do this at 2 p.m. Expected weight, 10 tons. and you can make any additional notes and then create. So it's very easy to create bookings, and then it's even easier to go in there and you can edit the booking. So if this booking's not going to come in today after all, you can click on it and you can update the booking, change the date, change the time, and then re-update that booking. So kind of going back to the home screen, down at the bottom, you'll see the tile that says 27. These are all of your bookings that you have for today. You'll be able to see what's been scheduled, what's been completed. And if we keep scrolling down, I have a few that are underway. So this is kind of a great overview of everything that you have booked for the day. I'm going to walk through receiving in. So if this Chardonnay here is, let's not do the Chardonnay. I have something else planned for that. The Syrah is here. So this is something from a tablet, from the crush pad, from the forklift. You can be receiving in this fruit. So it'll show here's our expected time in tons. Once we're ready to receive it, we can click receive at the bottom. Enter in our gross. Right now I have mine defaulted to tons. You can default yours to pounds. My tare is 0.5. You can also, I have defaulted mine to a truck scale. If you click on the little pencil, you can default this to bins as well. And so my bins that we're doing, my bin type is my bin here. How many? We're doing 18 bins. It already has my tear out and my gross of my bins. We're 10.2 minus my tear, so my net is 3.372. And if you have different types of bins, so if you have grower bins or bins with roller metal racks or anything, you can say how many of each bins you have for vintrace to also double calculate out your tear. So then once I say update, there's my new tons. I can do delivery details, who the carrier was. We're going to do John, not here. We're going to have Hillary was the carrier. Carrying company driver's name was Hillary. License plate number. And again, you don't have to fill out all this information, but whatever you fill out will print on your weigh tag. Next, we'll review. Before we review, I actually want to go back one step. Every screen you'll start to notice in the top right corner is a little paper clip. I love this paper clip. You can make notes. You can take photos. So you can take photos of the fruit, take photos of that document if you are weighing those bins 2 by 2. As you weighed them and you totaled it on the piece of paper, you can take a picture of that document and make any notes as well. And once you're happy with all of that, you'll click review. Vintrace will give you a nice summary. And then once you hit submit, you've weighed that fruit into Vintrace. This is going to ask for you to sign, and then it will automatically generate an email with the weigh tag to go to the grower, go to the carrier, will go to yourself who's logged in, and you can add it to any other emails that you would like to send. If you don't want to send it to somebody, we can just uncheck that. We won't send it to Hillary, and then send. So now those weigh tags have been. Also, if you have a printer connected to your scale, it will automatically print your weigh tags to your scale. All right, so now that we've processed this, it opens up a new screen on the app. And this is saying these are all of the tons that are ready to be processed together. So if you did weigh in part of this block this morning and a few more tons came in this afternoon, Vintrace does give you the ability to crush multiple lots together. So I can crush all 4 of these together. So that'll be processing. It gives you a nice little total. You guys might not be able to see very well down here at the bottom. It says 50 tons. So I'm going to say process now. We are going to crush it. I could also have opened up the work order that would have indicated what instructions the seller to follow, or you can crush it on the fly. And again, you're noticing that paper clip up in the top right corner. You can make any notes, take any photos along the way as well. And then next is verifying these are all the tons you want to crush. If you only want partial, you can click on that and say I only want 10 of the 24 tons. And then say next, make any additives. I want to add some kmbs. And this is set to kilos per ton, but you guys can also have it set grams per ton. And then the location, this is choosing your lot code. So if you guys do have the inventory module, this is pulling from your stock and also keeping track of your bioterrorism lot code. So we're going to check that. If you did have 2 lot codes, you can add another location at the bottom. If you accidentally add a lot code and you did not need an extra location, the pencil in the top right, you can click and you can delete that. And then hit the checkbox, you're ready to go. Now we're going to put this into tanks. So my tank is going to be L01. My batch name is going to be called my 20 SY harvest demo. We're going to create that batch name. My fraction type is going to be must. It's going to default to all 36 tons because I did not remember I only took 10 of the 24. And then you can add another location. So I can do a smaller tank here. And this is going to be my 20 rosé. My fraction type is going to be Saignée. And we got 500 gallons from the Saignée. So you could go into multiple must tanks, or here's an example of must one in one tank, Saignée going the next. The next screen gives you a nice little review, especially for white wines. You can see what your gallons per ton extraction rate is. And then once you submit this, you have crushed those fruit. It also gives you a warning that I'm using a kmbs that is expired. So this is something also, if you are entering in your additives, you can enter expiration dates that vintrace will give you a warning. And then it was warning me that my Saignée was a non-must type for a red wine. Am I sure I want to crush that? So now you can see it's updated everything I've crushed, and then it's still saying I have 14 tons pending to be crushed. All right, so now if we go back to my home screen and I type in my 20 SY, it'll load up my 20 Syrah harvest demo. So you can see I have 36 tons. I could do the current product state. You can change this by hand, or you can have vintrace automatically change it based on additive templates, analysis templates. We're going to go into all of that. And then the next tab that's pretty new is the clipboard. This probably came out about a month or 2 ago. This is showing the history of this wine. So it's going to show the different dates the fruit was received, and then what we've done so far. So we have done an addition to it. Next is the lab beaker. So this is something as a harvest intern, it's going to bring in the bricks that we received in against the fruit on the weigh tag. And then here is entering in the new bricks. After cold soaking, it soaked up a little bit more sugar. So now it's at 23. I can scroll down, also enter in the temperature. Also from this screen, we have the plus. You can now record additions and fermentation activity from here. So I could have entered in the bricks here being 23.5, or it got it cold soaking, so now we're at 68. And then we did some cap management. We had the team do a pump over, and we told them to go for 1 hour and then submit. And again, if you didn't notice the paperclip in the top right corner, you can enter, take photos, documents, notes. We also have a notes icon here. So we want to cold soak. for, say, 5 days. And again, you'll see the little the camera icon. You can add. Alrighty, and the last icon is the composition breakdown. I do want to show you a nice past vintage wine if you guys haven't downloaded the app, which I think 20% of you had not. Here is showing you about a past vintage, so a 19 blend that I have here. You can scroll through and see the current lab analysis of that wine. You can see I've tagged it as dry, as a red TR blend, the current barrel count, and other informations about this. The next tab is the history. So you can go back and see that we did a topping yesterday, we did some additives, we did a transfer. A couple of days ago, we did a press cycle, more additions. So it gives you the full history of that wine. Next is the lab beaker. So then I can scroll through and see, how did this fermentation go? From the phone, you cannot graph it, but from the computer, I will show you can graph it from the computer. And the last one is notes. And you can see a little paper clip means I've taken photos. And then the last one being the composition. For some of you smaller wineries, so if I go back to my 20 Syrah, you can see that I have a handful of 20 Syrah. I have some juice and goes, and my 20 Paso Syrah. If I click on my Paso Syrah, you can see that they're all M for must. If I click the little addition, this is where you can add an additive. Vintrace is going to lump all three of those together. Oops, not that one. Are these different names? Oh yes, those ones don't have a dash. Vintrace is dash and space sensitive, but lowercase and capital, it's the same. So if I go here for additions, you can see Vintrace is saying, hey, you have 2 tanks with the same wine. Would you like to make an addition to both of these? These additions that I'm showing you guys now is done without a work order. So this is great for some of you smaller wineries that you're the one making the ad, that you can record it on the fly. And again, with that paperclip, making any notes or any photos of what you've done. Alrighty. I think that is everything I have to show you guys for the app. Just showing, let me show you the barrels on this blend. Oops. And we'll pull up the phone a little bit to do some scanning, but also from the app, if you click on the 3 little dots there, the 3 little barrels, it'll give you the barrel breakdown, and then you can select to see the Cooper, the Forest, oak type, all that information about the app, about the barrel group from the app. And also you can scan, so from this photo here, you can scan both, I'll show you some weigh tickets and also work order tickets or scanning barcodes on tanks and on barrels. Alrighty. So we're gonna go through, looks like there's some good amount of questions coming through, so make sure you're coming through. Chris will answer them, and then Chris will guide me which ones to answer after. So from the computer, I wanna show you guys, if we dive into our fruit intake console here. So if you aren't scheduling your fruit through the app, from the little harvest icon, you can schedule your fruit from here. There's a couple different ways to schedule. Schedule 1 from your phone, 2 by going new, schedule a booking, or the third way is you can actually export this out to a CSV. And then from that CSV, you can fill in, obviously this one's already filled in, but what you can do is every day remove so obviously remove the vintrace ID number, and you will assign a booking number. You will assign a date and a time. The date does need to be 4 digits for the year. And then you can insert your book tons. Oopsie. Let me turn off my screen sharing. Oh, where'd my Excel file go? Then all you'll have to do here is insert in the grower, the vineyard, and block. And then you can upload this file. If this is something you are interested in doing, instead of doing it hand by hand, you can autofill in this Excel sheet and upload it in. Alrighty. So if we plan to do it by hand from here, schedule a booking. We will choose the block. So if I type in B2, I can pick up everything that has a B2. I can click on my B2 lot. This is connected to a grower contract. So, I mean, not a grower contract. Here is my grower contract. So by putting in the block, it auto fills in the vineyard, the grower, and then it also links to the grower contract. And then I can say my estimated tons is 20 tons. If you are receiving multiple blocks or you would like to, we also have a functionality that we can turn on for you guys. This is not automatically defaulted turned on. It is called crush press loads. So this is something that we originally designed for Sonoma-Cutrer for these different crush press loads. So this is where you can have multiple blocks or the same block coming in at multiple different times that you can assign that you want to crush them or press them together. So I can create a new press load. So add line, we'll click the plus. We will call this load this is my Pinot Noir. I'm just gonna call it my July 29th load. And I can choose, do I want a specific press or crush to go into? And we wanna do actually whole bunch. And then I can hit save. And then you can add the number of bins, and we won't do that right now. So you could say I only want half the bins to be done this way, certain number of bins. All right, so that is scheduling it so I've scheduled it from the phone, you've seen the upload, and then from the interface. A few reports that I love from this screen is, one, you can export this out just to have an Excel file. Two, if you go into the calendar mode and go to print bookings, I call this kind of the morning powwow sheet. So this will be everything that you're receiving today, all organized by time. So if you are a winery that thinks by loads, like a load's coming in at 6 a.m., 6:30, 7 a.m., then this will be great for you. Some wineries do know that they're going to get 10 loads from my block 1. So what you could actually do is say this is going to be 10 loads. So vintrace will say 0 of 10, and you're going to get, say, 200 tons. So there's two different ways to schedule your bookings, either by time, or if you don't know the time frame, you just know you're gonna get 10 loads. When I worked at Mudhouse in New Zealand, it was more of I just knew 10 trucks were coming in from this block. No idea if it was gonna come during my night shift or it'll come for the morning shift. All right, let me minimize this a little bit. All right, the next option is printing a few reports. So the scale bookings, I really love this sheet. So this sheet here is something that at Mudhouse in New Zealand, we lived and breathed by it. That was the custom ones, similar to the scale booking I was going to show you. This was something that we have done both ways, that we printed out and gave it to the truck drivers. As the truck drivers came to the winery, they would show up with this. The nice thing with this is, I won't be able to do both probably. If you scan this barcode, I won't be able to do it from my phone. If you scan the barcode, it will pop up that booking. So it'll open up this screen here. So then it takes out the room of error of selecting the wrong booking. It pops it up. So all the blocks there, the correct information. So then whoever's at the weigh tag can just enter in the tons or pounds. So that screen I showed you was the custom scale booking. The other one that you can use is the normal scale booking. Another option, sorry guys, is this is the scale booking. And this will be, the other option is either given to the truck drivers or having it on a clipboard. So as weigh tags or as trucks show up, the person at the scale house can make any notes on this, scan this barcode, ask the driver for their information, fill this out, and put this in the records that that truck came at this time. All right. And then there's a couple others, also a scale worksheet. So this scale worksheet, we have kind of two different models. The default one that you guys have in your database is mainly for trucks. If you would like this one that you see on my screen, this is mainly set up for bins. So this one gives you a spot, you put the number of bins. So if you're weighing them 2 by 2, the gross, tare, and net of those bins. And then here's your total at the end. And this will print out one sheet. You can see there's 28 sheets. So it gives you one sheet per booking. So that is something, if you guys would like the bin one, please email into support. The one that's kind of defaulted is more of a truck scale one. Alrighty, so I showed you guys how to receive fruit in from the iPhone. Now we're going to receive fruit from the computer. So this Chardonnay here, I'm going to say has arrived. So I can click on arrive. Enter in my tons. 11.5, my tare is 0.5. Also, the MOG is something that is not turned on as a default. If MOG is something your winery does wish to weigh out, you can let support know and we can turn that on as well. And then what I gave was a total. You also have the options to do bins. If you do a quick load, you can say what type of bins you're using. Number of bins, so I'm using, say, 20. And then this will drop in 20 bins for you. And this is where I'd recommend that you do create a bin called bin times 2. So then you'll know it's 2 bins. And then vintrace will give you the tare of those 2 bins. I'm going to clear this so you can enter these all in one by one. I'm going to clear that, go back to my tons. All right, and then the next is your costing. If this is linked to a grower contract, this will auto fill in. If not, we can say $3,000 per ton. And this is something right here. It does say there's a contract. So back into the fruit intake console. So we talked about the different printouts that you guys can print out, creating those bookings. And then next will be actually writing the work order or crushing straight from the fruit intakes. So from here, if I write a work order, so if you go to the down little arrow and you go to crush press, since we have not received the fruit in, it gives you the option to either write a work order or to crush and press now. So I'm going to create a work order. And then this wine here, I've created a crush load. So what I talked about earlier was I called this my Chardonnay July 29. And so there was 2 other lots that I linked to as part of this crush load. So vintrace is tying in all those weigh tags together for this work order. So then I can pick my tank we're going to go into. So if I go here to my LO2 and then give it a batch name. And then especially with the new vintage, every time you create a new batch name, this screen is going to pop up. So then you'll hit create and then you'll give in. So this will be the winery is going to be vintrace. And then our varietal is going to be Chardonnay. All right, and then I can save this. If you are a custom crush facility, you'll also have a default box for service orders that should be linked to your owner, and then it'll autofill in that service order box as well. Here you can choose for having a free run tank, and then you can also add a second line for a press tank if need be. So this is where you can press multiple weigh tags into multiple tanks. Also from this writing screen, you have two ways to make an addition. From the top is your additions that you're making to the crusher, and all of these rates are done on a per ton rate. So based on all the tons that we have predicted we're bringing in, this will be adds based on a grams per ton, kilos per ton. So again, based on that ton rate. And if I go back to my general tab and I click on this little icon here, this is your additions that are being made to a specific tank. So there are kind of different areas where one's being added to the crusher and one's being added to the tank. So if you are pressing into a free run tank and a pressing tank, you can make different adds to those two tanks. We'll put some DAP here. And we're going to say 10, and then it'll give us, it won't give us our amount yet because we haven't actually pressed those tanks. And then also from the little lab beaker, you can request a lab analysis to be pulled. So if I call it my juice panel, and that will default to these 3 items, and will also default to a change of a product state. So I'll go over all this and kind of after. I wanted to see you guys show you guys how it works, and then show you how to set that up. Product states is something that I really love in the database because it'll automatically change based on pulling samples, doing ads, doing treatments, will automatically change those for you. Also down here you have process. So I've chose what crusher I'm going to use, what press. If you're going to destem for juice use only, when you check this box, this is for a juice and go. Press and go. This means you are not planning on fermenting this at your winery. By checking this box, it will move to a juice tax class on your TTB report, and you will not be able to start fermentation. So this does not mean you're making juice. This means you're not planning on fermenting it. So if you do have any wineries that you'll press for and then ship the juice, then you'll want to check that box. All right, so now we're going to add this to the work order. And then here is our work order writing screen. The top part, you can schedule it for a certain date. You can assign it to somebody. You can also have your instructions, any of your standard notes that you can create. I don't have a crush one, so I can just pretend this transfer one is my crush, and it'll have all of your instructions. Oops. And then you can also click here for any note indicators. So this will be a crush. And then you can see my extraction job and then my analysis job. And then save as ready. This will come up as a Word document pop-up. From that Word document, you can make any changes. Chris is doing a webinar in the next couple of weeks to show you guys how to customize your print templates. And he'll also cover work order templates, additive templates, analysis templates, so all the different templates that vintrace has to offer. Alrighty.
Sorry, going over there.
Oh, thanks, Chris. So you'll see here is the work order template. There is a box down here. So with having those crush loads, it will link all the bookings on the same work order. And then there is this box here for bins and gross, your bins, your gross, your tear, your net. If you plan on using that scale booking sheet, you can use that. And then on the templates that Chris will go over, we'll show you how to remove this box. And same thing with the lab analysis. So if we scroll down, you can see the different ads. It's not letting me scroll. But down at the bottom, we'll show the ads that are that's being made to the crusher. And then over here on the second page is the ads that are being made to the tank. Okay, Chris, you want to close this and open vintrace back up?
Can do.
Alrighty, so now that we've written that work order, then from there you would go in through the job console to actually complete that work order to then crush that into the tank. So if you do have any questions about your press loads or crush loads, or if that is something you're interested in, please email support and we can turn that on always in your sandbox, or also turn it on in your live database as well. Okay, so now that we have crushed our tanks, I want to spend a little bit of time on some save searches from this vessel page. Save searches will really keep you organized for harvest of knowing which wines you have, that are cold soaking, which wines have not been inoculated yet, which wines have had their first nutrient add, second nutrient add. So a lot of this is playing off of both lab analysis and that product state that I told you that I love. Let me scoot this. So with the new vessel page, it's very much like Excel, where you can drag and drop and choose the order you would like to see items in. So on top of choosing the order, you can also go over here to the gear and choose what you want to see. So then you can customize what you want to see on these headers. So from vessel details to, if you are talking about different barrel groups, you can have barrel details, you can have, and then all of this is about the batch. So those tags I was talking about, you can have those on your recent notes, product states, mallow state. We also have a fermentation state, which is your alcoholic fermentation, and then all of your different lab analysis. Once you go through and check all the boxes you want, you can just exit out of this screen, and then this will reconfigure based on what you've asked vintrace to show. Taking it to one step farther is by clicking on one of these, you can tell vintrace what you want to see. So I want to see all of my wines that has a Brix greater than 18. So by doing that, it gives me a list of all of my wines that has a Brix greater than 18. And then I can also view, since I've included the product state, where are these currently? So like, okay, all of these are inoculated, and then these two have not had anything done yet. So they're both still, unfermented, and then this one is fermenting. So from this list, you can save this as a save search. So if you click on this triangle, I'm also linked to only barrels, or if I click all, this will show all of my tanks and barrels that has a Brix greater than 18. So now we got a few more items. Also based on the icons, you can see we got a few of our tirage bins here as well. And then I can also go in and link to a vintage. So if I just want my 2020 wines, hit the checkbox. So then here I'll show you guys how to create save searches. So you can create them on both lab analysis with also a filter on vintage, and you can also filter by the product state or fermentation state. So if you click here, it will pop it up. So if you hit save, oops. What did I choose? I think 18, right? Yeah. 18 plus. And then I hit the little checkbox. So that will save that search. Save searches are customizable by login. And then once that search is saved, then you can go in back into that search again. So if I click on the pyramid, and then you heart this save, then this will default on your dashboard. All right, a few other things that you can do with these save searches is also based on your notes. So as you take notes in the winery, you want to keep them like a rhythm. So like you can see down here, I've add DAP. You can do cold soaking, you know, do a delistage. So you can tell yourself what you want to do with those. Create a note that's more of an action item, or you create notes that are just flavor profiles, aromas, you know, how that fermentation's going. So with these notes, you can search by them. So I can search for all of my wines that I need to add DAP. And then I can hit the checkbox, and then vintrace will show me all of my wines that has a Brix greater than 18 that are 2020 vintage that I've labeled as add DAP. Also for like cold soaking, just different things. And after you've pulled up this list of wines, you can also say how many days ago did I say to add DAP. So less than a day or today. So you can see all of the notes that you did today for those transactions. And then from this list, I can highlight this list and then go actions. And every operation you can turn into a work order. I really like pulling from this screen here, but you have to write this as an operation. Oops. And then you can turn the operation into a work order. So it's already dropped in my 2 wines. And then from your template, I can find my, my nutrient templates, my DAP templates. So say this is my first nutrient add. This will do a couple different things. So it'll add my additive that I wanted. And then it'll also change the product state to first nutrient add done. And I have my rates already defaulted in. And if you hit calculate value, it will calculate out how much you should add. And the nice thing is you can change this from kilos to grams or to pounds just by clicking on the down arrow. Also from this screen, if you're wondering how much you should add, by clicking on the little M, this will give you any lab details, so you can see the current Brix, pH, TA, any lab analysis about this wine as well. And we have the little clock. If there's already a work order written against these wines, there would be a little number 1 kind of on that clock, or it looks more like a little exclamation mark, and then you'll know that there's pending work orders against these wines. And then to turn this operation into a work order, you can go to scheduling mode, click the plus, and then this will create a new work order number, or you could have assigned it to an already existing work order if you want as well, and then add to work order. And now you've just created an operation into a work order. And then what Chris will be going over with those saved templates, those print templates, from this little wrench, you can search for your different print templates that you have. So you can create them for in Spanish, different headers for different types of jobs. You can have them customized. And then once you save that, then once I complete that work order, it'll change the product state of these wines from cold soaking to first nutrient add complete. All right. So this is also how I did that nutrient add. This is also how you can do your inoculation. So from that same list, I can go actions, operation, do my multi-addition. And then you can also choose your inoculation templates. And the nice thing with inoculation templates, they'll be doing a couple different things. They're going to start alcoholic fermentation and then change the product state to inoculated. And you can give one wine can get different additives, or you can change out your yeast. That one wine is going to get a different yeast, and all the other ones can have the same. Alrighty, let's see, what do I have next? So next we're going to talk about so we've done our additions, doing daily bricks and temps. So let me search to my next, my 2020 wines. Most of the time I'd recommend for doing your bricks and temp through the tablet, a phone app, Android, iPhone or iOS or Android. Vintrace has the app for both. From this screen, you can also add in location. So if you do want to print out a piece of paper for your intern to follow, you can add the location of your vessels. So if I go down here and add my location, then you can filter this list by location, remove some of this unnecessary information that the seller hand or the intern does not need to see. Or if you're filtering by certain buildings, you're going to give one intern one list for one building, another intern the barrel rooms. You can select the rooms that you want. Or in this case, I'm just going to organize them. And you can organize by location, or I can also organize by vessel names as well. So you have a couple different options on how you can pre-organize this list for your interns. And then down here at the bottom, you can export this out to an Excel file or a PDF for them to follow, but ideally enter in those results into the phone. For juice panels, if you need to enter any juice panels from this list, you can highlight multiple of your wines and then scroll down to the bottom. And then actions, request lab work. If you guys do use ETS often, we do have an integration with ETS labs. So please make sure you go to our online help. It'll walk you through how to set up ETS. You will need to contact ETS to get a special unique username and password for Vintrace to log into your ETS account to pull those numbers. But do know we integrate with ETS, Y15, Chemwell, Floss, and different other lab equipments that your winery might have. So if I want to do a juice panel, by creating those templates, it'll automatically choose the metrics I want, and also changing the product state, and then defaulting to print a label. If you want individual barrel labels or barrel analysis instead of a composite sample, by clicking the Advanced button, you can choose this barrel group to do a single request or specific barrels, and then you can choose which barrels you want that samples pulled from. So you can do all of them or just highlight the specific barrels that you want sampled. And then we also can link automatically to a printer. We recommend a Dymo printer. We also have an online help guide that'll walk you through on how to set up the Dymo printer. And if you put it on print node, it'll be cloud-based. So anybody at your winery requests a lab sample, this will automatically print. And if you need any trouble after you read our online help, please contact support and they'll be able to help you out. All right, so now that we've requested lab analysis, you can go into the lab beaker and find those wines. There's a couple different ways you can enter in results. Again, you can hand type them in down the right-hand side, or if this is ETS, you can click check results here. Vintrace will log into your ETS account and pull those numbers. The other option as well is exporting this out to a CSV file. Fill in your results on that CSV file, and then import in that CSV file to auto fill in your results. All right, so let's pull up one of our must wines. So you'll start to see the icon M for must, J for juice, and W for wine. So this wine is currently must. And now if we are done with fermentation and we want to press this wine, there's a few things a few little tricks about pressing your wine. If any of you guys are Pinot producers or you care about your whole cluster percents, we do have a trick that vintrace will be able to keep track of your whole cluster. So if we go down here to press cycle, you will want to choose all 7,500 gallons is coming out if you are completely digging out the tank, and then the tank that you're going into. If I type in 60T, and as you scroll through here, you do see these wines do have the little kind of red dot. That means all of these have pending work orders against them. So that is something during harvest to pay attention to, because someone could be removing wine out of it. So then you can write a work order for wine to go into that tank. And then I can choose my fraction type again to be a free run tank. And then I can add a second tank for a pressing tank. If I am pressing all of this into one tank, and say this is a Pinot Noir, and I did, let's just make it easy, 50% whole cluster, what you can do is, we'll do 60T. So you're choosing the same tank you're going to go into. And then you can choose the fraction type of this is combined. And then this tank's fraction type is going to be whole cluster. It's going into the same tank, but then vintrace is going to keep track of the fraction type. So then I can say we got 3,500 gallons here, 3,500 gallons here. So you're doing the math for the 50% whole cluster, 50% not. And then once you save this work order, and again, making sure from this little icon here, you can make additions to that tank individually, and you can also stop fermentation from this screen, or an addition up here is making additions to the kind of press tank. And then you always have to hit the bottom calculator. That will calculate out your loss, and my loss due to pressing. Once you press the must, then vintrace will get your true extraction rates that I will show you after. You estimated 150 gallons per ton, and then once you actually press your wines, you'll get a true extraction rate. So now when I go and look at this tank, it'll take me back to the vessels page because this tank is no longer full of wine. Up here, I can start typing in my tank number. And then now when you look at the little tiles at the bottom, when you see the one, if I scroll down to a fraction type, you can see 50% combined and 50% whole cluster. So as you blend this wine with other wines, those fraction types will increase or decrease based on what you're blending it with. So it's a little workaround, but it works great. You know, 12 months, 18 months down the road, when you go to bottle this, you'll know what percent of that wine was whole cluster. Alrighty, let's see what next. Okay, so that's pressing, and then next will be barreling down. If you are doing barrel fermentation heights, so we'll take this lot here, and we will transfer to barrel group. So we're going to take out all 7,000 gallons. And then to create your barrel group, we're going to click on this turquoise plus. If you don't see that plus there, you will need to make sure you change the transfer type to transfer to barrel group. We're going to give this a barrel group name. It's going to be my 20 red 01 BG. All right, and then next is my area. Where am I storing this? My barrel room. Oops, I forgot my E. And then there's a couple different ways you can select barrels. You can either search or from a list or from the iPhone. If you open up this work order on the phone, you could then scan all the barrels that you filled. I'm gonna look for empties. I'm just gonna pick a couple. You do not need to hold shift or anything. You're just clicking. If you click on the barrel name itself, it'll open up details about that barrel. All right, once you're done selecting your barrels, you can also filter by year or by Cooper or anything like that. I can say use selection. And then instead of marking these as full, you're going to tell vintrace, I know the volume. And then this is where you're going to tell vintrace how many gallons of wine you're going to put in here. So we're only going to have, say, 385 gallons. And then I'm going to select all of these barrels. I'm going to turn all of these barrels to set as partial. And then apportion. And then vintrace will evenly distribute that 385 gallons across all of the barrels. So now all of these barrels are filled to 55 gallons. So you gotta make sure I know the volume, select them all, set them to partial, and then apportion out, and then put them out. And then we hit save. And then we'll just make this easy so I'm not taking a giant loss. Hit the bottom calculator. We've got no loss. If you need to make any changes to your barrel group, you can click on this little icon here, or making any adds, clicking there. And then treatment in the middle is again for cross flow filtrations, pad filtrations, transferring with air, doing a delistage, anything that you want to track that you did to the wine can be done through a treatment. All right, so now we've completed that transaction. And then now the same wine is in two different vessels. You have this drop down to say, would you like to look at the barrels or the tank? So from the barrels, it gives you kind of that barrel overview. All right, just look back at my notes. All right, so I think that's a good chunk of kind of writing the work orders, moving the wine through harvest. A few of the things we're going to talk about is through the setup part. And then I will dive into, let's dive into vineyards before we dive into setup. So from your vineyard screen, it's very much like the vessel tab where you can drag and drop, choose what you want to look at, all, only my blocks or other blocks. And then again, by clicking on the little gear here, you can choose what would you like to see across the top. So if I don't care about my rows or say grower, but you can go in and include the lab analysis that you would like to see. And then once you exit, they'll update this information here. And then from there, I can select my bricks. I can see again how my vineyards are progressing. I want to see all of my bricks, vineyard blocks that have bricks greater than 22 that I have tested or have not tested in X days. And then this will give you a list of all of your wines, or sorry, all of your vineyard blocks that have Brix over 22. And then you can, from this highlight, you can export this out. Everywhere you see this down arrow, you can export out to an Excel file or PDF, or you can also generate actions of printing QR codes for these blocks. Or if you click on one of the blocks, you'll kind of see what you saw on the phone, your expected tons versus what you received. If you go into the lab tab, this is where vintrace will actually graph. So I can graph my Brix and my pH with each other. And then you can download or export this out as well. And then you can see the fruit placement report, where this fruit has gone so far. So for this vintage for 2020, these are all of the tanks that my B1 Chardonnay is in. You can see this is my favorite block. And then also from this plus here, you can add a block, create a booking, or receive fruit in as well. And then by clicking this icon here, we'll open up the fruit intake console. All right, so we're going to go to a little bit of the setup part, and then we will dive into some reports. And then we will talk about, we will answer questions. So from here, you want to look at your equipment first. Your equipment, you'll want to make sure that you guys have created different crushers, presses, scales. We create a generic one for you. Just call it crusher, press, and scale. But then you can go in and create different ones. From your scale, what is important is your tonnage. So if I go to my scale, you'll ask your default units, do you want your scale to show in pounds or tons? So this is where on the app, it was showing tons for me because my default is tons. If you want that to be pounds, you need to change that from the scale. And then also if you set up a printer, when you weigh your fruit in from the tablet or your phone app, it will automatically print that weigh tag to whatever printer you have linked to this scale. And if you guys have any trouble or need help setting that up, please let support know. The next section I want to talk about is down here is your treatments. So treatments is where you guys can create your different product treatments. So I jumped down to product treatments. You're adding DAP, doing declaring juice for cider, doing your DE filtration. Someone spelled that wrong. Cross-flow filtration, pad filtration. You're doing a delostage. You're mixing the tank. You're doing fire hose, sump, screen. Anything that you want to track, you can run that as a treatment. To create a treatment, so you can see here we have a 10-minute pump over. You just say the description, it applies to wine and juice, and then you can give instructions. If you want it to change the product state, you can check the box here and have that product state of that wine change due to that treatment. And then also barrel treatments is for moving barrels, selling barrels, cleaning barrels, all of that. All right, so the next category we're going to talk about is, I think workflow talks about, we're going to talk about bringing in new barrels. This is about the time of year everybody's bringing in new barrels. You have kind of two major ways to bring barrels in. One, by creating a barrel auto code. So my auto code is, I want it to start with the letter T. I want to have the owner code, so 2 digits for an owner. I'm a custom crush facility. The production or the purchase year of the barrel, and then 00, which is your increasing number. So this is where you guys can set up an auto code for your barrels, Or the other option, if you are a local vintrace admin, you can go into the vessels, go to barrels. You can export out a barrel registry, download the header, and then you can fill out your barrels on this Excel sheet and import this in. If you are a custom crush facility, I highly recommend sending this Excel sheet to your custom crush clients and have them fill it out. You can make any changes that you need to, and then you can upload this back in. Chris, you might have to move that over once that opens up. So here is that Excel sheet that you guys can go through and put in the name. So the name is the name of the barrel. And then the owner being either yourself or your custom crush clients. And then a lot of this information you don't have to fill out. You do need to fill out the winery, the capacity. There's a few others. So if you're unsure of what fields need to be filled out, give it a try. We do recommend uploading this into the sandbox first. And if you do have any trouble, please let us know. And then once you upload it, you can choose here and upload your file. If you need to update any of your current barrels, you can export out your existing registry and just make sure you check the box to update. If this is grayed out and you cannot open up this screen, that means you do not have the local vintrace admin permissions. If you are choosing to use the auto code, when you go here to create the new barrel, you'll click the little wand here to pull up your auto code. I have a couple different auto codes, so I can go to my new barrels. And then you'll need to fill out these boxes. If I click the save button, the boxes will turn kind of a ready orange of what is required. And this is also a good indicator of what's required on those Excel sheets that you need for upload. So we'll fill in the capacity and then how many barrels fit that. No, that's not what I want. So under, we'll do workflow next is our product states. So I did have a nice Word document. I was going to show you guys a bunch of different product states, but here's just a few examples of your cold soaking, daily B's and T's, mallow, dry, going through mallow, first nutrient add, second nutrient add, on lees, on bento, post ML racking, ready for bottling, ready for yeast, ready for acid and water. These are just different stages that your wine will go through. It does not need to check every box. It can skip product states, but it will help you to kind of keep track of where a wine is and if something is getting, if anything is falling behind. And then the last little bit in here is to talk about is your, under production, is your additive templates. And so this is where you can create that first nutrient add you want it to be go from. And it's going to change the product state to first nutrient add complete. And then you can also create like your inoculation ones. You can have different inoculation ones based on the type of yeast you're using, and then having it start fermentation and then also changing the product state, and then selecting your rate of add as well. The other thing you can do is targeting. So this is where you can set up to target 35 ppm. So what vintrace will do is say that your wine is currently at 20 ppms. You want your wine at 35. It'll say then the delta is 15. So then it'll prompt you to add 15 ppms of 6%. To set up this metric weighting, so this is for your SO2s, your kmbs. You'll want to make sure in your additives If I type in here my 6%, I can find my 6% solution and make sure I have a metric weighting. So this metric weighting is saying the strength of this additive is 6%. So if you are using a 10% solution, 20%, 11%, you'll just want to change this weighting to be the strength of your additive. With regular kmbs, it's typically, so this is, if you are a new customer, I do try to kind of set this up to roughly to go in and do your 6% for you and your kmbs, but if I did miss it, please double check. And from the kmbs, this is where you can set up your kmbs weighting. That your weighting is, you know, for this is roughly 57, 58% for your kmbs. The other thing you'll want to do is for your yeast, for both your yeast and your ML bacterias, you'll want to make sure that you've told vintrace that this is a yeast or ML. And by doing that, or how to do that is, you want it to cause a treatment to start alcoholic fermentation. So what I recommend is changing one of them. And then if you do have local vintrace admin permissions, you can export out all of your additives into an Excel file, drag and drop. So you want to export out your existing records, drag your start alcoholic fermentation to all of your yeast, and then drag your start ML to all of your ML bacteria. And then show you guys a little bit about the metrics. This is where you can create what I did talk about, like the bud break. You can just create that as a metric and have the unit answer be yes, no. And same thing like cold soaking, is this wine cold soaking, can be a yes, no. So these are different ways that you can see, did this wine cold soak, how many days, bud break, you know, cluster weights, bunch weights. You can really create lab analysis to kind of be anything that's worth tracking. And then your standard notes, these where you guys can go in and put in all of your SOPs, how to inoculate, how to transfer, how to blend. All right, so my last kind of little setup bit, oh, one more before setup, I'm not done. I'm kind of jumping all over the place, sorry, is grower contracts. We do have a really nice support article about the grower contracts. So if you go here to create a new grower contract, this is a permission. So if you do not see the tab that says grower contract, that means you do not have permission to see them. So contact whoever is your local vintrace admin to give you permission. And if they don't know how to do it, have them email into support and we can help you how to create that grower contract. So we can give this a name. So our 2020 Chard B1. You can, the vintage 2020, my winery. You can do a start date, expiration date. And then you can choose how detailed you want to be. So you can say, you know, start end date of the contract if it expires next year. If they charge you for freight. Over here, it's completely optional of how detailed your contract. If you have one grower, they charge you the same price no matter what vineyard or what block it is. You can choose the grower, or if it's a specific vineyard. And this vineyard is all the same no matter if it's white or red. You can choose that vineyard and then just put your price. But if it's within that vineyard and it's a specific block or a specific varietal, you can type that in here as well. So based on how detailed your contract is, will determine how detailed you get with this contract. And then how many tons are you contracted for? And then vintrace will calculate out the total. And then again, this will export out to a CSV as well. So the last winery setup thing I'm going to talk about before I jump into reports is metric thresholds. So this is a way that you can have vintrace to prompt you to stop alcoholic fermentation or to stop malolactic fermentation. So by stopping alcoholic fermentation, I'm telling vintrace when I get a Brix less than negative 0.5 to ask me, would you like to stop fermentation? You can choose it based on glue-free, Brix. You guys can set this up. And then stopping the mallow, you can choose less than, greater than, equal to, or less than equal to for your malic. Once you create those, then you'll want to go into your metric action policies, not action policies, I lied, treatments. We have fermentation treatments, and then you have your stop ferment, and you want to link that to your stop policy. And my stop policy here is my stop firm. So your treatment will be stop alcoholic fermentation. And then once it hits below negative 0.5 Brix, vintrace will prompt to stop alcoholic fermentation. And then you'll want to do the same thing for mallow. All right. I think that is everything from the setup part. If I did miss anything, you guys have any questions, please send me an email, reach out to support as well. Okay, so now we're going to go through how to fix mistakes and some reports to run. All right, so going into the fruit intake console. If you scheduled the wrong booking, you can go here through the drop down, and then the booking you can edit. So since this booking hasn't been completed yet, I can still edit the booking itself, or you can also copy. So this is great if you have the same load of fruit coming in 10 times, but just a different time each time, you can copy that booking or edit. If you've already received in that fruit, you can hit the drop down arrow, go to completed intake and hit correct. And then this is where you can correct. If you realize you have the wrong block, the wrong grower, you can go in and X this out. By changing the block here, it'll change the block on whatever tank or wine that this went to as well. We're going to call this supposed to be High Hill. And then that will change all the sub-AVA and everything as well. And then you can save that. The next screen is going to ask you for a reason. Why did you change this? You'll enter in your reason, wrong block, and then you can hit save. So that's how to fix up blocks. Also, any weights that are incorrect. From that screen as well, you can do a split load. So if you have one truck that came in with 2 different blocks on it, once you start weighing in your first block, after you get to that weigh-in screen, you can add in another block. So if I just put in 1 ton here, then my next screen here, you can add another load or edit as well. So if you realize you weighed it in pounds and then this screen will convert it to tons, if anything is incorrect, then you can also click here to edit or click here to add another load to that same weigh tag. All right, so now we are going to go into some reports. So we have the reports here. Under vintage harvest is our grape delivery report. You can choose the vintage, change it to PDF or CSV, and then generate the file for all of your fruit. This is also nice because you can filter it by grower, by owner. So if you are custom crushed, you can give them this report by how much they've brought in or a certain grower. It gives you your total tons. And if you have permission to see cost, you will see cost here as well. Okay. So that's our harvest grape delivery report. We have our fruit placement report, which is great to run kind of more post-harvest. You can see where all the fruit has gone. You can choose a specific block or a vineyard, and then vintrace will give you a list of all of the wines that is in. Under product analysis, you can run all the analysis that were ran for today. So we have both an Excel version, so analysis data export, and then we also have a nice PDF version for analysis data sheet. So I can choose for today and then hit generate, or you can also choose by template. I only want to see my juice panels. It'll show you what has been run, and then the date and the analysis to go with that. And then you have the analysis data export, kind of very similar, but in an Excel version. If I go back a couple days, this will give you an Excel version of those analysis. And then you can also filter by analysis templates. And then for fruit sampling, this is where you can run reports for any vineyard block data you've put in. So again, we have our sample day sheet can be in both either PDF or CSV. So if I go back my last kind of, say 2 weeks, you can choose by vineyard or by grower and see all of your vineyard analysis. Alrighty, those are kind of a few of our other reports. There's obviously lots of other reports you can run, but those are the kind of few kind of highlights with that harvest. Alrighty, so if we go into the last bit is the 3 little gears. If you don't plan on entering in fruit samples through your app, we do have a maturity sample console that you can enter in your daily, not daily per se, but your vineyard checks can go through here. So if I click search, this will show all of the vineyard blocks I've already uploaded. And then you can export this out to a CSV, fill in the results and upload them in, or you can go wine by wine, click on them and add the results in from here as well. So you have the option to enter in your vineyard samples through your computer or through your phone as well. And from here, if you choose a certain vineyard you're going to pull from, you can export out labels. So I typically recommend uploading all of your blocks that you're going to sample from. And then you can choose how many labels you want to print and have those stickers and baggies and hand them out as someone goes to the vineyard, you can give them the stickers to put on the bags of what they're sampling. I do recommend playing with this in the sandbox. If you guys have not opened up your sandbox yet, from the new interface, you'll go up to your kind of person icon in the top right and say use my sandbox, and this will open up your sandbox database. And we also have here is our help and support, and then down at the bottom, which you guys can't see too well, the bottom left is our little plus sign that will open up another vintrace window. Alrighty, let's open this up for questions. Chris, do you have any particular questions that you want to have us go through live?
Yeah, we did have a couple. Let's see where they are.
Actually, this is Heather. I saw one come through a couple times about how to use the sandbox in the app.
Oh, great question. So with the sandbox in the app, you'll want to make sure, I won't be able to do this because I'm on Chris's computer. But if everybody's looking at your phone, in the top left is those 3 little lines that will kind of open up the account settings, and there's a sign out. You have to sign out of your login, and then you will type in your 3-digit code. So for my database is TSH, and then I would type in the word demo, all one word, so it'd be TSH demo, and then your same username and password. The sandboxes do fall asleep after 3 days of not using it, so you will need to wake up your sandbox from your desktop first before you can log into your app. And then the sandbox will have a nice big red bar at the top. And then to get back into your live, you will need to sign out and log into your live database. Someone asked, how do I delete saved searches? I did see that one. So from the reports, so if you go into reports, this is going to open. The first screen that pops up is custom reports. Here's the list of your saved searches. And then you can go through here and delete them or pin them to your board. What was another one, Heather or Chris, that you guys saw?
I saw one about setting up rating and another one about deleting a booking you don't need, and whether you can do that from the app. I don't know which one you want to take.
So from the app, you can't really delete a booking from the app. You can edit the date, edit the time, edit the tons. If you do need to delete a booking, you will have to come in from the desktop. And that's kind of like I was saying with the same thing to edit. You can do the drop down arrow. Go to the booking, hit edit, and then at the bottom left, I believe, is inactivate. And then you can check to inactivate, and that will inactivate that booking. So you per se can't delete anything vintrace, you can only inactivate. Okay, Chris, you had one?
Yeah, we had a couple of questions about editing blocks and viewing assessments. So if you want to show them I guess the block sort of overview just quickly again.
Yep, so from the little sun vineyard icon here, this will bring up your block details. So if you do need to edit a block, you can click on one of the blocks here. And then you will see a pencil kind of in this top left corner. By clicking that pencil, gives you the ability to edit details of the block. The clone, the rootstock, organic, biodynamic, any of this additional information. And then to see those assessments, so let me pull up my block that I've actually done assessments on. If I go to my assessments here, you can see them from the app. and then you can view them, or from the desktop, you can view them from here, or from the phone, you can view them from the little icon. If you do have a bunch of blocks that you need to upload, or you just purchased a new vineyard, from the setup under, I'm still trying to learn this new one, fruit sources. We have here is your fruit sources here, and this is where you can configure to create new blocks, or you can export out your current vineyard and block records, and you can edit that information from that Excel file and import it in, or download a header. You can create your new blocks and import that in. Or from here, you can choose a grower. I've created a grower. They have one vineyard. I can create a new grower against that vineyard, add that vineyard name, or from a current vineyard I already have, if I am getting more blocks, I can click here and then add new blocks to that current vineyard. And if you need to inactivate a block, then you can click on that block, and then we do have the inactivate button here as well. If you rip out a vineyard and you replace Pinot with Chardonnay, but you're still calling it block 1, you will need to call the old block 1, maybe dash Pinot removed in 2019, and then inactivate it. Then you can create the new block and just call it block 1, so then it won't mess up. If you can't have 2 block 1s from the same vineyard, so you will have to name the old one, remove 2019, and then create the new block. Chris or Heather, another question?
Yeah, we got one. How do you top partial barrels like Chardonnay fermented in barrel? Is always a good one.
Yes, so I showed you guys how to fill them to only 55 gallons. And I think, was that my 20 red, I think I called it? Oh yeah, my 20 red 01. Right here. So here's that barrel group that I filled at 55 gallons. Now it is done with fermentation, so now I'm going to top it up. So then here we will do a multi-topping. I will put the same barrel group here, so 20 red 01. All right, so this one I'm going to say on the left-hand side, you click the little list icon to bring up your barrels. I am going to, this barrel is going to be empty. So we're going to change it to workout volume details. So I'm taking out 55 gallons. You've got to move that little bubble. And then over here, instead of recording a pre-topping loss, you're going to increase volume and then click this little icon. Oops. And then we're going to highlight all of these barrels, set them as full, except that last barrel, this is the barrel that we used for the topping. This one is empty. So then we can say, okay. Chris, what did I do wrong?
I'll just click the workout volume from details again. Shouldn't be transferring in that much.
Hold on. You've got to do it in a certain order. It just goes a little. So we go. Our 20 red 01. then record increase volume by amount. Click here. Set all of these except this one to full. There we go. Now we got our volume of 24 gallons in. And this one I can actually say is, you know, always half. Or what you can do is if you are filling a keg, so you can either leave this half, or you can X out this one and add 2 kegs. And so we have 55 gallons out, 53 in. We hit the calculator, and then I'll take a 1 gallon loss, and we can go due to correction. And so that is doing a filling barrels that are topping up barrels. So you just got to play with the 2 little icons there. All right. What was another one, Chris? We'll do a couple more minutes and then we'll send those questions out. If we have others, we can email people.
All right, let's take a look. There's a couple of questions about reprinting way tags and printing the scale sheets and stuff. So you just want to show people where the print option is in the fruit intake console.
Yep. And then while I'm doing this, you can figure out what the next one would be a good one to do. So from here, you can click on, so if I need to reprint this way tag, I can click on it, turn it turquoise, and then down here at the print option, you can choose to print the scale worksheets that I talked about, the scale bookings, booking labels, and then it's the docket original, correct?
Yep, I think that's the one.
And then it has to show lab analysis. So if lab analysis were entered, here is the way tag. If you are not in California, I try to be good about removing this California write-up. But if we have not removed that, please email into support and we can remove this California write-up on the top of your way tag. I don't think I can scroll. It won't let me. That will it. And then has a spot, and you can have it where it can print out a winery copy, a grower copy, a truck copy as well. All right. What is next, Chris?
We've got a question about the default extraction rates and how you can go and change those 150 gallons per ton.
Before I jump into that, why I'm here is from this little wrench, you guys can customize what you want to see here. So from this wrench, you guys can customize your layout of what headers you wish to see, and then the order you would like to see them. Then you can give it a name, and then click the little heart. Then that will default those headers for you. So default extraction rates, we have 2 different ones. You can default by varietal, or you can default must as a whole. Guys, don't pay attention. I'm going to cheat real quick. Under system policies, you can edit default extraction rate. And so I have my must set to 150 gallons per ton. So this is where you guys can change that. Also from this system policies is where you can edit work order note indicators. So that little checkbox in the top right of your corner, this is where you can add more or also remove them from here. And if you want to do it by varietal, you'll go under the varietal and then make sure you can go in by Cab Franc. You can click on it and default its extraction rate. Since we are talking about defaults, I did not talk about defaults. So under workflow, we have a whole default category, and based on your level of permission, you can default for by winery or by user. So you'll want to make sure you default your vintage. If you guys only have one owner, so if you're not a custom crush facility, I would default yourself as an owner, default your lab. You can default your scale, your press. You can also default barrel auto codes, booking numbers, storage charges, dispatch areas, how you want to, if you want to skip wine declaration. So this is for when you stop fermentation, vintrace will prompt you, do you want to declare the wine? If you change this to yes, vintrace will not ask you to declare the wine. You will tell vintrace when to declare your wine. And I will do a post-harvest webinar that will talk about cleaning up harvest mistakes, declaring wines, topping up barrels, and different things like that. And then here's where you can crush your fruit in tons. So this is different than weighing your fruit. So I recommend you weigh your fruit in pounds and then you crush in tons. And then if you wish to weigh your mog, having a weigh tag, master's name, linking a lab printer. So every time you request a lab analysis, your lab sample labels will automatically print to that printer. Any other questions, Chris?
I think that covers a lot of the really useful ones. If I haven't answered anyone's questions, I will follow up afterwards. But
and also we did record this webinar, so we will send the link out to the recording probably tomorrow, so then you guys can rewatch it, pause, and fast forward as well. Alrighty. Well, thank you everybody for joining. We had a phenomenal turnout. This is the largest webinar that we've done. If you guys do have any questions, please contact us, and happy harvest.